Greetings and grace to those of you who are gathered here in the building, and welcome to those of you who are watching live and remote, and those of you who are watching later on in the week as well. Well, we're off to a fun start. It's nice and cool in here anyway. So those of you who are watching, love to have you come. And as always, we're always glad to have anyone come and join us at the 9 o'clock service. So, all right, so today we're going to kind of wrap up this thing on integrity. We've been looking at it from different angles. We'll talk about wisdom today. But before that, I'd like to share, we had a full week. We've got a little PowerPoint here. So the first thing was that a couple of us were at, we were at the McHenry No Kings rally, and then standing next to me is Sue Rose, who got me on the County Board Housing Authority Board, and now she is really the first one that stepped up for Indivisible. Indivisible is a nationwide group that is totally locally operated, and so she was the first one that said, I'll step up, and so Sue Rose stepped up, and she is the local organizer for the McHenry County Indivisible, and that was her, and it was somewhere between 4,000 people, maybe, lined the streets, if you're familiar, 4,000 to 5,000 people, lined the streets from basically the street just close to, what would we say, across the street from Burger King there on 31 North, all the way down to the cemetery, 3 or 4 deep, so many that they ended up having to put people on the other side of the street, and it was really a great time. Lots of horn honking. A few people showed that they had a different opinion, and they managed to show that in clear language, and that's okay. We've got our opinion, they've got their opinion, and we're on the side of love, and so that's what we're looking for. So then that was Saturday. Then Sunday, some of us were able to be, and I appreciated Gina and the team taking care of things here. We went over and had a booth, and it was a good time for me. I got to connect with some people from a former church as well as from childhood, good grief, a high school friend right there, Linda Hamer, on the left there. We were very close. She lost her dad about just a little bit before I lost my dad in high school, so we became tight buds. And then just some more stuff we got. I mean, it was just a fun day. If you just want to have some fun, next year, go. There was you had Spider-Man there. I mean, it's just, I don't know what your concept, but the big attraction for everybody was our Dare to Drum, and I think she won the contest for who was the oldest person who dared to drum. She was just awesome. And then we had some more. We had the kids daring the drumming, and Lynn and Pam and Betsy and Gina did such a good job on that. You can scroll. Yeah, so there's, it was just, and that was really the Dare to Drum was the attraction. Everybody had candy, but no one had drums like we did. So we had a lot of fun with that. So, and then of course the main theater were the drag queens, and if you've never been to a show before, it's worth the price of admission. It's free, okay? So, but it's very different, and so I would I would encourage you. That takes place anywhere in the 1 to 2 o'clock time frame. So they've got all kinds of great food trucks. It was a really, really good day. Fortunately, the temperature was great. It was a little bit warm, but nothing like today, and so I'm thankful. We're all thankful that it was. I think Chicago's is today, if I know right. So they're going to be having a little bit of heat stuff. So anyway, well, this is the day the Lord has made. We're going to take a look at wisdom and a man who's well associated with wisdom. Looking forward to sharing that time with you. And I invite you to stand as you're able, sing as you are so inclined, as the team leads us. And in a more contemplative, we started off with a big blast, and now we're going to ask you to be a little bit more introspective and just thoughtful and reclining into the arms of Jesus. Amen. Not a message everyone knows. Oh, how he loves us. Yeah, go ahead. Have a sit, everyone. Thank you so much, team, for leading us. Max for drumming us out. And Gina's got some opening words for us.
So to get the information for today's message this morning for the opening, I decided to engage in some research. See, Kurt is going to speak about wisdom today, And to be honest, that's one of those words, one of those descriptors that I've never really been able to wrap my arms around. I can't quite clearly articulate what wisdom is and how it differs from being smart. I have a sense, personally, that if I had to, my gut says if I had to choose between being wise or being smart, I'd rather be wise, but I really can't explain why. So, for some of you who are lucky enough to be in my text stream, because we're not quite ready with Subsplash, but this will be how this could be used in the future. I sent out a text to some people in the congregation with this following question. I'm collecting data for Saturday, or for Sunday. Can you answer this question without looking it up, right? And that I meant without going and asking AI. I wanted an answer that was not AI generated. What is the difference between being smart and being wise? So I didn't want to bait and switch, and I didn't say anything about using people's names, so I'm just going to read these anonymously. These are the answers I got. Being smart is knowing something. Being wise is knowing what to do with what you know. A smart person is well educated, but not always wise. A wise person is a thinker, and mostly thoughtful, and can be smart. A smart person is a learned, book-wise being who may lack common sense. Wise people know how to use discernment regarding all they have learned. I would say smart likely comes from being well-read, and wise is a person who's a deep thinker. As I grow older, I have learned the process of becoming wiser, intimating that wisdom comes with age. I think people can be smart, such as a Mensa member, and may not be wise. Wise to me is being aware of people and situations around you and knowing how to handle any situation with kindness and grace. Smart is book knowledge. Wise is experience. Fact-based versus experiential. Shortened to the point. Smart knows a lot of data. Wise knows how to use the data. You get smart by schooling. You become wise by living your life. Smart to me means quick to learn, and wise means having a bank of knowledge and experience. Being smart is knowing how to do something. Being wise is knowing if you should do it. And I would say, without looking anything up, smart is knowledge. Knowledge of, retention of, and application of facts and relationships. Wise to me is the ability to use experience gained to make life better for ourselves and those around us. Now I have to say I am very grateful for the people who responded, and I want to let you know that people got back to me in a really quick amount of time. And I appreciate that too, because when you're trying to put it together, it was nice to have those responses. And I appreciate the quickness of your responses as well. And one common theme found in the answers is that smart is tied to intellect, either innate or gained through education. And wisdom is born through experiences and discernment. And my only one little bit of question around that is I've known some pretty wise little ones, right? And I was kicking back and forth with one of you, and one of them said, yeah, that's because little ones are good listeners and they hear their parents. So that's another question, right? But most of you agreed that experience is what causes wisdom. And certainly As with most things, Jesus was both smart and wise. Jesus lived a balanced life. The fact that he was debating scriptures at 10 or 12 in the temple, right? He knew the scriptures. He had them memorized. It takes an intelligent person to be able to do that. Plus, he used metaphor so beautifully as a teaching device. And he taught lessons that were counterintuitive, like love your enemies. The last shall be first. Okay? Those are statements of wisdom. So in today's scripture, you're going to hear these words. Bonnie will read them for you in a minute, and this comes from James 3:17. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. That's a wisdom from James that we can all aspire to. In closing, when I asked the difference between being smart and being wise, this response came from one of us. Being smart is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Being wise is knowing you don't put tomato in fruit salad. Welcome to worship. We are so glad you are here. Bonnie?
Good morning, everyone. Today's reading comes from James chapter 1, verses 2 through 7. My brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of any kind, consider it nothing but joy, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking in nothing. If any of you is lacking in wisdom, ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given you. But ask in faith, never doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For the doubter, being double-minded and unstable in every way, must not expect to receive anything from the Lord. We continue with James chapter 3, verses 13 through 18. Who is wise and understanding among you? Show by your good life that your works are done with gentleness born of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not be boastful and false to the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, and devilish. For where there is envy and selfish ambition, there will also be disorder and wickedness of every kind. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without a trace of partiality or hypocrisy. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace for those who make peace. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Gina, as always. In case you'd like to be in on next time she sends out a question to the group, we have our own app now. And so we have people who can help you figure that out out in the fellowship hall area afterwards. It's not all that complicated, but for some of us, it's kind of a learning curve in terms of using an app. We can help you find it, and then we can help you get logged in, and then you will show up when Gina wants to send out a message. We're still trying to figure out how to group some things. I was talking with someone yesterday, and but for right now, just get logged in, and that'll be fun. And Gene, I thought that the wisdom of the tomato would be, it's a good thing to eat. Some people just, a tomato, I think I would rather have a candy bar or something. So, All right, wisdom. So one of the things that we've come to understand in life is that it is unpredictable. It is uncertain. And some of us lately have felt the uncertainty of life in a way that is unprecedented. And at times, people feel like, man, I just feel like roadkill right now because I just keep getting run over like a Mack truck. There's crisis after crisis, and there are problems and challenges that just seem so immense. So we might think James crazy when he writes these words. Bonnie just read them, but I want us to look at them again and go, come on, James, are you for real? Consider it joy, all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials. Now, if you just read that much, you want to go, I don't think so. I want to sign up for, what else can I sign up for other than that kind of joy? I'm facing trials of all kinds, the testing, and I don't really want my faith to be tested. So James is saying something pretty different to us. But he's saying that these things that happen in life, the problems in life, the circumstances that we just wish we weren't involved in, those are the things that test your faith, and that when you endure those things, then you develop perseverance. He said, and perseverance has a purpose, because perseverance must finish its work in you, that you may be mature and complete, not lacking in anything. But then we are cautioned. Because he says, if anyone lacks wisdom, ask God. And God is ready. God's ready to give you that wisdom. But if you're going to ask, you got to believe. Don't doubt. Because those who doubt, James says, it's like being on a boat, and the boat is a-rocking, and the waves are blowing, and the waves are rocking, and the wind is blowing, and you don't be tossed by the wind. He says, that person should not think they'll receive anything from the Lord, for he or she is unstable and double-minded. So what James is saying to us, friends, it's important. It says, being faithful in the small things in life sets the stage for the big challenges that we will face. And as we're faithful in our actions and reactions to life, that's our proving ground. Now, I think a lot of us know that tires go through proving ground. Cars go through proving ground. I mean, you just don't build a car and then stick it out there. It has to be tested. It has to go out to the proving ground. And James says these smaller things in life, those are the proving ground for us. Life is our proving ground. And if and as we live faithfully, the seed of wisdom is planted and nurtured. And one thing I think we all know is that you can live a long life and never grow in wisdom. We can have countless experiences in our life and never learn from them. It's possible to keep making the same poor choice over and over. There are those, perhaps you know one, or perhaps it's been you at one time or another, who keep getting into the relationship with the same guy or the same woman. Different face, different name, same stupid choice over and over. See, wisdom in a sense it says we need to be at war against stupidity. Okay, because stupidity destroys lives. And the stupidity is destroying lives right now. It's at risk of destroying our country, our friends, and our collective future. Now, there's a guy in the scriptures who we are told is the wisest man who ever lived, right? His name was, thank you, Solomon, right. Now, that was written before Jesus, so we're going to think he was like second. Okay, we're going to put him behind Jesus. Okay, so he was the son of a person we may have heard of, King David, and he inherited the empire when he was a young man. Scholars tell us probably in his teens, and as a teen then he is over this vast empire, and he is overwhelmed by the challenge that is before him. And I go, yeah, no duh. He's overwhelmed by the responsibilities that are now his, and so God made him an offer. It's nice. God said, you can have anything you want, and I'll give it to you. Now, as I read that, and if you saw the newsletter, I thought, that's like I Dream of a Genie. You pick up the bottle, and out she pops, and says, what would you like, Master? I went back, and because I've linked up, and I saw, I don't remember ever seeing the original one, but she spoke in a foreign language at first. Did anyone follow the link and go watch the original, the first of that? Just Google it. It's so fun. And then finally, Tony says, "Oh, I just wish you spoke English." And then all of a sudden, she starts speaking English. It was really fun, So, not only did Tony, he got unlimited wishes. Solomon got one. And so instead of asking for wealth or power or pleasure, Solomon asks God for wisdom. Yeah. Solomon says, give me some wisdom. Give me wisdom, and I will lead this people that you have entrusted me with. Now, that's an extraordinary request and a wise choice, if I may say so myself. And so God says, Solomon, because you didn't ask me for wealth or power or pleasure, the type of things that normally I'm being asked for in people's prayer life, he says, all these things that men pursue and war for all their lives, because you asked for wisdom, I'm not only going to give you wisdom, Solomon, I'm going to give you all these other things in addition to it. And so parenthetically then, men have been asking God for wisdom ever since, with the hopes that God would give them power and wealth and pleasure. So we find that Solomon's wisdom was tested right away. Some of you know the story. 2 women, each have a young baby. And in the night, one of them dies. And so in the morning then, the woman whose child died all of a sudden says, that's my kid. And I was like, no, that's my baby. What are you doing? And so they start having this, I don't know if it's a literal tug of war or whatever, but they're having this tug of war, and no one can say, well, whose baby this is. And so finally it ends up, they say, well, let's take it to Solomon, because supposedly he's wise. So Solomon hears them all. He's got 2 women, 2 mothers, 1 baby, and they can't decide. So in his wisdom, Solomon says, well, I know how to fix this. We'll just cut the baby in half. Brilliant choice, right? Well, the woman who was the mother said, no, don't. Just let her have the baby. While the other woman had said, sure, that's fine with me. So Solomon right away knew who the mother was, because the mother would never want any harm to come. So Solomon cut straight through to the choice. So I didn't use the app, so I'm going to ask you a question right here. All right? I'd like you to think of the wisest person you've ever known. And I want it to be the person who, if you walked up to them, they would say, hey, Rob. Hey, Bob. Hey, Gene. Okay, so you need to know this person. Now, there's a follow-up question, so you need to have a person in mind. Okay? Raise your hand if you have somebody in mind, because I'm waiting until everybody's hand goes up. I got cold cuts for lunch, so I can wait. Okay, that's good enough. All right. So here's our little survey I'm going to do, okay? So is this person that you just said, yeah, I've got the wisest person in my mind, are they the richest person that you've ever known? If so, raise your hand. Okay, all right. So we know something. So we know that affluence is not linked to wisdom, okay? All right, so is this wisest person that you've ever known, are they the most educated? Do they have the most degrees, the most pedigreed person that you know? If so, raise your hand. Ooh, our education is, there we go. The educator says, well, of course. I'm picking on the educators. I love you. All right. So what we see is that as you guys discussed earlier with Gina's opening thoughts, education does not equal wisdom as well. Okay, so one more question. Okay. So this wisest person that you know, are they the person you would go to if you're going to go to anybody? Because some of us, we won't go to anybody, we'll just sit and drown in our own agony, okay? But if you were going to go to anybody, would they be the person that you would go to help you with something, either interpersonally, within yourself, or within a business? Would they be the person that you would go to? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good. Okay, that's what I was hoping. Okay. So what we see is that wisdom is different than knowledge. Wisdom is more than the accumulation of data and information, which you guys did so well. That wisdom gives us the ability to, in a sense, to connect the dots in life. So, that said, Solomon, remember, the wisest man who ever lived, was researching and studying the archives of human history. So when I read that phrase, I'm thinking, anyone watch Game of Thrones here? Remember, they had these massive books that they'd bring out, and they would unfold it, and the book would be like this, this big. And I'm just imagine Solomon reading one of these massive tomes, So he's studying the archives of human history, and he finds an occurrence of wisdom that astonished him. Now that says something, right? It astonished Solomon. See, if I was playing golf, and I played with some 15-year-old kid, and he was really, really good, and I said, boy, you got to keep your eye on this kid because he is going to go places. One day he's going to be famous in golf. You'd say, well, man, you're like a subpar golfer. You can't even play golf. What do you know about judging someone's ability to play golf? But if Tiger Woods played with that young 15-year-old kid, and Tiger Woods said, man, you book it. That young man, that young woman, she or he is going to go on and, they have a great future in golf. You go, yeah, I'm going to watch that person. So if I just said I'm at the wisest person in the world, you might say, well, maybe, maybe not. What was your class rank, Kurt? Okay, won't go there. All right. So Solomon says, I saw wisdom under the sun that astonished me. We would stop and we would pay attention, right? And so this is exactly what he says in Ecclesiastes, a book not many of us cracked lately. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 13, beginning in verse 13, he writes these words. I also saw under the sun this example of wisdom that greatly impressed me. So there's the 15-year-old golfer being impressed by Tiger Woods. Solomon, the wisest of all, says, this example of wisdom impressed me. There was once a small city with only a few people in it, and a powerful king came against it. All right. But nobody remembered the poor man. The story continues. So I said, wisdom, Solomon says, is better than strength, but the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heeded. The quiet words, Solomon says, of the wise are more to be heeded than the shouts of a foolish ruler. So we don't know what took place, but whatever it was made such a huge impression on Solomon. Solomon knew, right, what wisdom and power could accomplish together. He was living proof of wisdom and power. But here was a guy, no title, no position, no wealth, no power, no resources, nothing by way of the world. And Solomon reflects, I once saw wisdom that astonished me. There was a small city with only a few people in it, and a great king rose up against it and built a huge siege work. Now, a siege work was when they surrounded the city and no one could come in and no one could get out. And in that city there was a poor but wise man. And with his wisdom, he set the city free. Here was a man who had nothing working in his favor. His entire world had been turned upside down. We're not even told why the city was valuable, but for whatever reason, some foreign king, some foreign power had come in and built this siege works. Now all of the young men who were raised to defend the city were dead. Women and children were now widows and orphans. There was no one left to bring them hope or freedom. But there was a poor man in a small town with a few people in it who was about to face the greatest challenge and the greatest opportunity of his life. So I put myself into that position best as I could, and I thought, well, the first thing he must have had to face was an overwhelming sense of who am I? An overwhelming sense of insignificance. You know, can you imagine your resume starting, I'm a poor man from a small town with a few people in it? You know, it's like, I didn't come from Naperville. I didn't come from Oak Brook. I didn't come from Chicago. I came from just a small town. I don't know, think Hebron, okay? Small town with very few people in it, very little competition. And in that small little town, I was the poor guy. You know? He wasn't a small fish in a big ocean or a big fish in a small pond. He was a guppy in a puddle, you know. And I'm telling you, when you finally see the life God has created for you, you too might just have that sense of insignificance. And you may well wonder, what in the world is God thinking, selecting me or choosing me? A couple of weeks ago we talked, you know, several of you said afterwards, you know, I used to always be picked last for the team, excuse me. Well, imagine your surprise when all of a sudden you're picked first. Like, what? No. Because all of a sudden now they're depending on you for something, right? They're thinking, oh, well, he's going to make a difference. So all of a sudden, you've got a poor man in a small city without any resources. See, God called Jeremiah. Jeremiah said, I'm too young, Lord. So you call somebody else. Moses said, I can't talk, right? He said, I have a speech impediment. God called Isaiah, and Isaiah said, hey, I'm just unworthy. I am unholy. So every time God encounters a human being, they get a glimpse of the path that God has set before them, and there can be, and often is, this sense of being overwhelmed. Like, me? So think about it this way. What's your vision for your life? If you feel you're completely up to the task, then maybe your vision is too small. If you think you're talented enough, gifted enough, bright enough, intelligent enough to accomplish everything that God is hoping and has set before you, maybe your vision is too small. See that sense of insignificance? We're supposed to trade it in for an understanding of the power of God with one person. So anybody here ever felt insignificant? Oh, we got a few confident ones out there, okay. We know how that's played out, right? We can look good. We can talk the talk. But deep down inside of us, in those quiet moments, what I've heard, and likely you have heard too, is, hey, there are people who are more talented than you, more intelligent than you, and certainly better looking than you. So you know there are people out there that have an edge. They've got the advantage over you. And you look in the mirror and you go, how in the world am I ever going to accomplish everything that I want to do, that God's leading me into, of all the things that I feel like being led toward when I'm not everything I need to be? And what we need to know is that no matter how insignificant you've ever felt or how insignificant other people have told you you are, when you come into a relationship with the creator of the universe, you begin to tap into that power, the power of one person with God. And that one person with God can do mighty things. If anything, Jesus reminds us that one person fully devoted can save the world. So have you ever even given any thought? What might God want to do in my life? And what would you do? What would you need to step into if you began to hear and see that calling, that direction? Maybe you think, I could never do that. I've had some thoughts, but I could never do that. There was a poor man in a small village whose wisdom was incomprehensible. So dream with me now for a moment, would you? So you've overcome your sense of insignificance. You say, okay, I'm going to believe that one person with God is a majority. I'm going to believe that God can do amazing things through me. I'm going to believe that in spite of all my weaknesses, all my faults, all my shortcomings, all my brokenness, that God is going to do amazing things through me. Walk outside, and you go, whoa, oh, these problems, they're huge. There are giants out there, dragons, fire-breathing dragons. And you go, no wonder I thought I was insignificant. Because I'm not only insignificant, but the problems are significant. He's not just a poor man in a small town with a few people in it. He has to go to war against a king, against a great king who decides to conquer and hold a town for his own. So I believe that for most of us, the moment we begin to live our life with the intention and the purpose God created you, you're likely to find yourself going to war with giants. And you're going to have to slay the dragons. And you're going to have to wonder to yourself, how in the world does God expect me to overcome all of these? I've had conversations. You may have had some as well with people. I've had too many conversations with people of faith who said, well, I believed in God, my faith was sincere, and then those two words, the most destructive words, and then this happened, and then my world fell apart, and then someone I loved died, and then the person I trusted betrayed me, and then this happened, and then that happened. And when you enter into a relationship with God, the and-thens don't end. They're going to keep being there. And then. And in those moments, we have to realize that the only solution to overcoming the and-thens is an overriding commitment to God. And that the only circumstances that will bring you down and keep you down are the ones that are more powerful than your commitment to live the life God has created you to live. He was just a poor man that God used to set his city free. So what could God do with you? And Solomon goes on and he says, well, he was poor. And did I mention he was poor? And by the way, one of the unique characteristics of this man was he was poor. You got it, right. Solomon was probably wondering, how can a poor man accomplish so much? Is wisdom really this powerful? Because the moment I get over my sense of insignificance and I go, okay, God, I believe that you and me, we can do great things together, I'm not going to be terrified by the overwhelming circumstances in life. I'm going to rise above them and have the internal compass to be fueled by courage. But then I go, yeah, but God, it takes stuff to make things happen. I need resources. So this is a word not only to us, but to church in general, to the churches. If only I had enough money for ministry. If only I had enough money to make a real impact on the world. If only Jesus had money, then he could have changed the world. But poor Jesus, he was just broke. So Jesus created this huge movement of dreamers and visionaries and heroes. He created this movement of men and women who are noble and courageous, but he was just so underfunded. He couldn't make it work. See, sometimes we're not the poor man. Sometimes we're simply a beggar with a poverty mentality. Because we think that God's resources are unavailable to us, that the resources have to come first rather than our faith in God. In my life, everything that has actually lasted started with passion. And when things start with love, they endure. But when things start with the resources, it seems to me they're already on shaky ground. God said what? God said to Abraham, leave everything. Go. Come with me this way, to a land you do not know, among a people you do not know, to a future that you do not know. It seems like God says, trust me. Let me be your resource. Jesus looked at a man and said, go sell all your possessions, because he was rich. See, when we moved to seminary, which was right after we got married, right after college, we moved into this very modest place. Betsy says to me, how can we afford this? I said, we can't afford anything. So we didn't have enough money to pay the bills. But we had a belief, we had a conviction that we were where we were supposed to be. See, when you face the great challenges and opportunities of life, you have an overwhelming sense that you lack the resources to get it done, and that's when you need to realize that God has unlimited resources for those who walk with courage, who trust in God, who choose the path of wisdom, which is the mind of Christ. There once was a poor man in a small city who had incredible wisdom, and he saved his city. What will you and God do together?
We are at the point of our service where we lift up one another's in prayer. We celebrate your joys, and we hold your concerns in a collective heart. So if you have anything that you would like us to mention today, please hold it up. And Bill will pick up there's a yellow card for those of you who are visiting. There's a yellow card in front of you in the pew, and you can write it down on there. Pastor?
Okay. All right. So we're all aware of this big funding bill. Okay. So this is a little bit in the weeds, and I know sometimes that I present things in this section that are a little bit complicated. There's one thing that really, there's so many things about it, but the one thing I want to raise is something that most people have not heard of. In the bill, they are proposing, so they need to offset the billionaire tax cuts, right? They need to offset that. And so in the bill, there is a section that will sell off the public lands. And they do this because they need to figure out how to offset the taxes. Okay, and that's really important because I don't know about you, but the public lands are the public lands, and so we need to figure out who can we write or what, but to raise the awareness of that, because there are so many other things in that bill that are getting attention. The selling off of the public lands, and so I thought, well, that's one thing. Next year maybe we'll get different leadership or something, and that'll go away. We can say no, we're not selling those anymore. But once it's in the funding package, you can't unring that bell. Okay, it gets a little wonky, but the bottom line is we need to speak out. And I don't care if you're left, right, or center. You should want your public lands to stay public. And we don't have a lot of those around here, but if you go out to Montana, you go out to Wyoming, you go out to Arizona, you go out to Utah, there are lots of them. And there are lots in these fabulous, fabulous, beautiful locations that people will be glad to pay lots of money for, because now, we used to be public, now you can just build your house there. You can bring up your trailer, you can own that property. And so for me, again, this is, not a left, right, or center issue. It's like, hey, that's our land, and if we're fortunate enough to go out to Arizona, if we're fortunate enough to go out to Salt Lake City, if we're fortunate enough to go out to Oregon, when I go out to Oregon and visit my son, especially out in the Bend area, there's so much of that public land. You can just camp there 2 weeks or a month, I'm not sure which. No one's checking on you anyway, but there's so much. We don't have a lot of it around here, but it's your land, and we should speak up and say, don't sell my land. So you can make your balanced budget thing. So anyway, I don't know the name of it, but if you look it up, you'll find it, and I hope we can write our people and say, don't sell my land. That's my land.
Barb Zamastil is asking for prayers for the mother of one of their great-granddaughters. Due to bad life choices, she is now in a hospital with multiple systems shutting down. Prayers also for her daughter to try and understand what is happening. Please join in prayer for wisdom over ego as the conflict escalates in the Middle East. This is prayers for those who are grieving and the war that the U.S. has entered into without approval. Safe travels for Abby, going to Peru on Thursday for a month. She's going to do a long study abroad, so prayers for Abby as well as congratulations on her adventure. And a blessed happy birthday for Chuck Conway on Wednesday, 6/25. Chuck's going to be 91. Happy birthday, Chuck. And I'm going to shamelessly wish my husband a happy birthday today. Today is his birthday, so yeah. Okay. So, our prayer song today, we have a treat. We have a duet. Ashley and Rosemarie are going to sing for us. Let's join together in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. And a few words about our stewardship. We turn to Arnie. Welcome, Arnie.
Good morning, everyone. Offering words today are, those who are happiest are those who do the most for others. These words are from a person who is named to be the first leader of the Tuskegee Institute of Alabama, an institution for black higher education. He expanded the college, enlisted students in construction of the building. He was an author, an educator, and a leader in the African American community. So let us give to help others. You may place your offering in the plate at the back of the sanctuary. If you are watching remote, you can mail it in to 3717 Main Street here in McHenry, or go to the church website, or use the QR giving code on the back of the bulletin. As always, your gifts and offering are greatly appreciated. We thank you. And we now have a word from Bonnie about all the fun we're going to have at Fiesta Day.
Hi, everybody. Guess what? It's time for Fiesta Days preparation. We're only 27 days away. And for those of you who don't know what this is, we have a couple of pictures here to show you. We have a food stand. We sell brats and hot dogs and pop and water and baked goods at Veterans Park during Art in the Park. And we've got the best spot in the park. It's a big pavilion, so there's usually a wind going, like blowing under it. So we're cool even on like a day like today. And you can see the goodies we've sold in the past. And prior to that, we had Pat manning a group of kids who were getting the pop and water ready. So, and this is the picture from 2 years ago. So if you know little Lucas and see him walking around, this is right when he was born, but he was still one of the helpers that day with his mom, dad, and Roman. So you might wonder, how can you help? Well, we have a few ways you can help. And the first thing you could do is, if you'd like, is to donate pop and water. And we've got a new poster. I know you've seen the posters up there this last couple weeks. This one's a pop and water donation poster, and we'll have that out there. So we sell cans of pop and regular bottles of water. You could also help us by baking some cookies, brownies, pies, or other treats, and then bring them in by Friday, the day before, July 18th. Prepare baked goods for sale with Pat and the girls. We have a crew that puts them into sellable portions. You can donate ice. This year we'd like to try and freeze some milk jugs with water, and then we put them in these pools where we have our pop. Or you can buy bags from, like Woodman's is a really good place for the bags of ice. The next thing we have on the day of the event, we need help carrying our supplies and baked goods to the park. We have to get there early by 6 o'clock to set up the food stand, so we need a crew to get there early, and I've been lucky to have Max and his family help me with some of the Boy Scout leaders in the past. We need people to serve customers and grill brats, hot dogs at the park, assemble and wrap hot dogs and brats. So usually we have Bill and Lisa, who are the experts at that. And then take down at 4 o'clock. So that means we have to put all our stuff back into the cars and trucks and bring it back over here and unload it into the kitchen usually, and then we're done for the day. It's a wonderful event. You'll get to see a lot of people. We have our friends from the St. Paul Church coming back to help us with the bake sale. They'll be there from 9 to 2. So if you can sign up, it's not for the whole day. You can just sign up for a couple hours or help us in the ways that I said about getting ready for it. But it's a really good event. We give the money to charity and our missions, and it's our biggest fundraiser. So hope you can join us. Thank you.
All right, well, the worship team's going to send us out of here, so we're going to be marching if you feel like moving around a little bit. Sending song is We Are Marching. We're marching in the light and love of God. So, I invite you to stand, if able, and sing as you are inclined. Okay, all right. Well, thank you, team. You've you lifted us up today. We really appreciate that. Spinning the dials back there. We got a whole bunch of guys back there. We got Kyle back for some of the summer, so welcome to you, Kyle. Nice to see you again. And we got Nate, and Mike has managed to slip in there at the last minute. Good to see all of you. It's been good to be together. This is the day that we have gathered together, and we shall now go forth to serve. And I would encourage you to go forth to stand for something. Okay, take a stand. Let your voice be heard. Okay, don't be timid, and use wisdom to guide and govern your life as we go forth in the name which is above every other name, the wonderful name, the powerful name, the loving name, the merciful name of Jesus the Christ. Go in peace and strength. Amen.